This is CJ in Montgomery, Alabama, awaiting social justice attorney Bryan Stevenson. He is founder and executive director of the Equal Justice Initiative, a nonprofit dedicated to releasing the unjustly convicted from prison and death row. As the best-selling author of Just Mercy got situated for our interview, he couldn't help reminiscing about a recent visit to the Twin Cities, where he made another sold-out appearance, this time at Edina's Christ Presbyterian Church.
This is a cold front for us.
Yeah, it is. A little chilly.
Because when I was in Minneapolis, Lord have mercy, it started snowing. I said, I got to get out of here. This is not my environment. Am I sitting in the right chair?
Yes,
okay.
Stevenson, who was also at Minneapolis' MIA in 2018, is a speaker in demand across the world. He is the very thoughtful force behind the most poignant tourist stops now on the Montgomery, Alabama landscape. They include the Legacy Museum, which traces the history of blacks in America, where they have been oppressed as slaves, subjected to the cruelties of Jim Crow, and overrepresented in the U.S. prison system. And then there is the National Memorial for Peace and Justice, also referred to as the Lynching Monument. Its pillars honor the lives of more than 4,400 blacks killed through the American homegrown racial terror system that was lynching, many of which were offensively celebrated. The memorial is a healing acknowledgement of American history not much discussed, especially in the Deep South, where many are devoted to continuing to honor the Confederacy. In the grand scheme of things, where does removing symbols of the Confederacy rank with your priorities in the pursuit of racial justice?
Well, I think it's important. I do think we want to create a consciousness among more people about why they should come down. Because I think if we just take things down because we get the power to do so, it doesn't actually achieve the kind of advancement in thinking that I think we need to have. I mean, in many ways, things changed during the Civil Rights era because the courts forced them to, and that was the right thing to happen, but we didn't engage in the kind of conversations that actually change people's thinking. And now you see we have this resegregation. We have a whole new generation of problems that a lot of people thought we were going to eliminate in the 1960s. And so as we deal with this history, I think we need to develop a consciousness that makes us understand why, if people did dishonorable things, if they did destructive things, if they defended slavery, we shouldn't honor them. And that is important to me.
How often do you hear from a white American who has visited the memorial who says that it has turned around their thinking?
I think that's the most encouraging thing that's happened over the last 6 months. We hear from lots of people who came to the sites very cynical, very skeptical, very critical. And some of the emails I've received, some of the letters I've received have been really, really powerful to me. People who didn't know about their county history, and when they discovered it, were mad that nobody had told them about what had happened there. People who never put it together, these connections between enslavement and lynching and segregation and mass incarceration. There was somebody at our memorial one day who was just sitting there for 4 or 5 hours, and I had to go over there to do something, and my staff said, there's this guy, we're a little nervous about him, this white guy. So I'm not worried, I'll come over. And when I got over there, he recognized me, and he said, I'm from Mississippi, I'm a pastor. I had no idea of all the violence that took place in my county. He says, I know I can't go back there the same. I'm just trying to sit here and figure out how I'm going to be different. And he was crying. And I think that when you create spaces of truth has a power to convict, to challenge, to disrupt, to motivate, to inspire, that nothing else has. And that's all we're really trying to do, is to get the truth of this history out there. And I think a lot of things will happen for a lot of people. We've seen it in the African American community too. People who said, my family never talked about this. And you'll see people just wrapping their arms around some of the monuments in the memorial and just sobbing. I think that's liberating too, because we can't actually deal with trauma and abuse and that weight of that history if we're not allowed to talk about it, if we don't feel safe to give voice to some aspects of that. So I've been really excited and encouraged by the response we've seen from all kinds of people.
One of my colleagues who is from Mississippi was at the Emmett Till Memorial. He was appalled that there are gunshot dings in it. That's a little more difficult with the monuments that you've erected.
Yeah, but I think one of the real challenges is we have this violent history in the American South where people believe it's appropriate to use violence to express their disagreement with something. And that certainly was true throughout the period of enslavement and the period of segregation and lynching, and I think it's a symptom of the disease which racial bias and bigotry represents. And I think we have to see it that way and understand that we're going to have to provide treatment to get people where they need to go. Yes, we have to unfortunately think a lot about security in ways that I regret, but it's necessary given our history.
I'm glad to see, and I'm not surprised, that you've a lot of people who clearly were probably in prison before work for you now. Because they can't find jobs.
Well, and we've always taken pride in the fact that there are a lot of people who go to jails and prisons who come out who are more motivated, more capable, more committed, more competent to do a lot of work, but they can't get those opportunities because of the stigma. And we have a reentry program, we have a lot of people, so we are thrilled when we can employ and help formerly incarcerated people get back up on their feet. And obviously, given the work that we do, that's a point of pride for us.
Have you heard whether Roy Moore or Kay Ivey have visited the memorial?
I have not heard. I hope both do visit, but we have so many people coming through, which is this wonderful problem that there are a lot of people, elected officials and others that come through, and I just don't get any word about that.
Well, they're building 5 new hotels in Montgomery, and I heard Todd on TV, Mayor Todd Strange on TV the other day saying that 3 of them are downtown, and they're going to be because of all the tourism that you've brought here.
Yeah. Well, we've been pleased that there has been such an increase in the number of people coming to Montgomery, and I don't think there's any question that has had a positive economic benefit for everybody in this city. And we want people to embrace it because it's important, but we're not opposed to people recognizing these economic benefits. And actually, we're very supportive of creating a healthier, more vibrant, supportive environment. There need to be more restaurants, there need to be more hotels, there need to be more institutions that can accommodate people who really want to have a meaningful experience in Montgomery.